The women's NCAA tournament is starting. Instead of predictions, I want to pose 5 questions which I think the NCAA tournament will answer. Let's start with number 5. Who will make their case for Player of the Year? Now, I am more focused on the Naismith Award, as I'm not sure if you're aware, but Angel Reese is not a finalist for the Wooden Award. There's speculation this is due to a low GPA or something. But really, when I look at the best basketball player in the country, I don't really care if that player can split an atom. I want to know if they can get buckets and play defense. So I will focus on the Naismith Player of the Year award, which has already been reduced down to 10 players, which includes Aaliyah Edwards, UConn, Elisa Peely, Utah, of course, Aaliyah Boston, South Carolina, Angel Reese, LSU, Ashley Jones, Iowa State, Caitlin Clark, Iowa, Cameron Brink, Stanford, Elizabeth Keatley, Virginia Tech, Mackenzie Holmes of Indiana, and Maddie Siegrist of Villanova. Now, those are the 10 players that made the semifinal cut, if you like. On the 23rd of March, this list will be reduced to 4 players. It's pretty much guaranteed that Boston and Clark will be in the 4. Reese will also make the cut. The 4th player to make the cut's a bit of a wild card. Maybe Siegrist, maybe Kitley. However, it could be Brink as well. I see it hard to put Siegrist in the top 4 as she was really outplayed and shut down by Aaliyah Edwards in the last 2 games that they met. But really, it seems like the Player of the Year award will come down to a 3-player race between Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, and Angel Reese. Boston's case will be made if South Carolina completes an undefeated season. Her argument will be that she's the best player on the best team, shutting all teams down with her devastating defense, but also allowing the Gamecocks to flourish on offense due to the gravity as double and triple teams allow her other teammates to obviously flourish while she's getting mauled inside the paint. The other primary candidate is obviously Caitlin Clark. Her game is exciting as she launches threes from all over the court. As well, she's now reading the court, so when double teams or triple teams come, she punishes them with the pass. You can feel the narrative and that voters want to give the award to Clark. As Wilt Chamberlain said, nobody likes Goliath, which probably gives her the edge over Boston. As well, Clark has already had a Heisman moment, if you like the Doug Flutie Hail Mary when she went for 34 points against Indiana and won the game with a 3-pointer on the buzzer. The hole in Clark's resume, though, is that she has not made the Final Four. If Iowa makes the Final Four, then you would think Clark is pretty much a certainty to win Player of the Year. However, if she goes out prior to the Elite Eight and Boston and the Gamecocks go undefeated in the championship, then I think the award will go to Boston. Number 4, Angel Reese and LSU. As you likely noticed, I didn't really speak about Reese for Player of the Year award. This is tied to LSU itself. The question with this team is, are they a good team who are the beneficiaries of playing a super weak non-conference schedule? And has Reese simply put up stats against inferior competition? LSU and Reese had their chance to make their case that they were elite when they took on the Gamecocks in February, but it was clear they were a step below, losing by 24 points. Reese was also unable to dominate during the game, going 5 for 15 shooting for 16 points and only grabbing 4 rebounds. It was the first game of the season where she failed to get double-digit rebounds. Because of this and the loss to Tennessee in the SEC tournament, they were not given much respect getting a 3 versus a 2 seed. Normally, I am from the Denny Crum school. Yes, I've dated myself. Which is, you play a tough schedule to get tournament tough. So normally, I would think LSU would suffer for their cupcake non-conference schedule, which would prevent a long run in the tournament. However, if things go to chalk in their bracket, it wouldn't surprise me if they are able to make a run to the Final Four. I would like them in their matchup with Utah, as I think Reese could give Elisa Pilley a lot of problems with her length. I'd love to see this matchup. It'd be sort of like a Charles Barkley going against an Oakley or something like that. And the matchup with Indiana, if all goes to chalk, would lead to another one where Reese versus Holmes, which is another one I would like to see. If these matchups happen, it will also help tell us about the strength of the conferences, the SEC versus the Pac-12 versus the Big Ten. But more on this later. Number 3, how much complaining will there be about the double regional setup? The Greenville 1 and 2 and the Seattle 1 and 2 locations. This is the first year of this setup. The NCAA Women's Basketball Committee has been selling this new setup, saying it's like having mini Final Four, citing how great the atmosphere was during the women's 2021 tournament when all the teams were in San Antonio due to the pandemic. In truth, some complaints have already started coming in, with Gino Oriyama stating how he's not a fan of the new setup. His complaints seem to be twofold. One, the travel involved, noting that one of the regions is on the East Coast and the other one is on the West Coast, and that UConn was going to be forced to travel very far west. He made the reasonable point that if you're only going to have 2 locations for the regionals, then they should be located in the central U.S. His other argument really didn't give much reason. It was basically, I'm old and I don't like change. Teams surely will not be shedding any tears for UConn, as they were probably one of the big beneficiaries of the old regional setup coming out of Bridgeport, Connecticut regionals in 2013, 2016, 2017, and 2022. Not surprisingly, former Notre Dame coach Muffet McGraw was not a fan of the old setup, saying, "But could we talk about the regions?" She wrote, "They are supposed to be neutral sites. I know attendance hasn't been great, so let's try something new. But holding a regional in someone's backyard every year, that has to change." Now, somebody always likes to complain. In this tournament, I just wonder if it's going to be what an advantage South Carolina has as they're playing their regionals essentially at home, or if it's going to be the whole travel concern and how we're making student athletes travel so far. Again, questions to be answered. Now, the number 2 question I want answered is what conference will take the championship belt in terms of the most games won during the tournament and who'll get the most teams to the Final Four. In terms of teams getting the opportunity to get into the big dance, the ACC led all conferences with 8 teams getting in. This, of course, was headlined by the number 1 seed, Virginia Tech, but their nominations also included Duke, Florida State, Louisville, Miami, North Carolina State, and Notre Dame. The Pac-12, the Big Ten, the SEC were all just behind as they got 7 teams into the tournament. The Big East had the fewest teams with 5: UConn, Villanova, Creighton, St. John's, and Marquette. Will the tournament reveal a power shift to one conference? Well, this is likely tied to the number 1 question, which is UConn. Can they make another improbable run to the Final Four and make it 15 consecutive appearances? If there was ever a year for the Final Four streak to be broken, this would be the year, because injuries, and more injuries. Also, with the new Final Four set up, they'll be required to fly across the country for regionals in Seattle. But the positives, if you're a UConn fan, is like always, they played a tough schedule, so they should be tournament tough. Their main Achilles during the season was depth, which resulted in them wearing down and looking sluggish at the end of the season. However, in the tournament, if you have 5 or 6 strong players, you can make a run. Just ask Notre Dame when they had a horror run of ACL injuries in 2018. They were able to make a run and win the championship. Now, the question for UConn fans is, was their revival during the Big East tournament just them getting some rest and running through weak competition? Or are they a team to be feared with Nika Mule and Lopez Seneschal, complemented by a tough interior brought by Dorka and Edwards, and then mix in hopefully a little bit of a healthy Fudd? Can that team make a run? If their bracket stays to relative chalk, their competition or obstacles would be Virginia Tech, obviously, Ohio State, and Tennessee. How UConn goes might help show where women's college basketball is going heading into 23-24. Is the power and center of women's basketball going to stay in Connecticut, or is the power in the process of shifting to the SEC and to South Carolina, Tennessee, and LSU? Again, questions to be answered. I'm looking forward to seeing these answers. Thanks so much for watching. If you like the video, please give it a like. Your poison and praise is always welcome. If you could subscribe to the channel, it helps it grow and allows me to generate more content. Thank you very much.